Hello? This is he. Are you sure? Okay. Yeah, I'll be right there. I'm here to pick up Alden Call.
Are you his father?
Yes.
Did you fill this form out? We'll notify you of a court date within 30 days.
Dad, I know I messed up, and I know you're probably upset. I'm sorry.
Come on, bud. Let's get you home. Mom's gonna be worried.
Fantasy versus reality. We're going to be taking our text in James chapter 4 today. I want you to look at this statement if you can see it. If you're on this side in the back, you can look back at that TV if you'd like. The statement is, our worldly fantasies never play out the way we want them to in reality. I want you to think about this statement. I want you to think about what it means, and then we're going to talk about it. To break this down, there is a difference between fantasy and reality. We all agree. Fantasy is something that we dream up in our mind, and reality is something that actually happens. I'm great about this. I can dream right now. I fantasize right now myself jumping up and dunking a 10-foot basketball goal. And I actually have recurring dreams about that. And I'll just be tomahawking on people. And then I'll wake up from that dream and I'm 5'6" and I can't even touch the net. Dreams are different than reality. How many of you are fantasizers? How many of y'all are dreamers? The answer is all of us. We all have dreamt or fantasized about something. We dream about these fantasies about how awesome it would be if we had this, or how awesome it would be if we did this. But at the end of the day, our dreams never come into reality. They never satisfy us. And here's the reason. Because worldly things can never bring you true happiness. I don't care what anyone tells you, things don't bring happiness. And I'm the world's worst. I'm a dreamer. All right, so what you're looking at on the screen right now is the car that I drove in high school. This isn't the exact car, but it looked very similar to that. This is the same make and model, and I had to find one that was beat up a little bit to match the description. But I remember when I was 17, my dad saw this guy selling this car in the Walmart parking lot in Decatur. And the guy wanted $1,500. My dad said, well, I'll give you $1,000. He said, that's a deal. So that was the first sign that it wasn't going to work out good. But I drove this for a while, and it got me from place to place. But at the end of the day, it ended up having a lot of cosmetic issues with it. 2 of the windows didn't roll down. The passenger side door didn't open, so I couldn't go on any dates because the date would have to crawl through the driver's side into the passenger side. There was a hole in the trunk, so every time it rained, in the bed of the trunk or in the back of the trunk, it would be soaked. And to make matters worse, I had gotten a flat tire one time and left it on the side of the road for a few hours. And I came back and somebody had stolen my stereo out of it. So I couldn't listen to music. The doors didn't open and there was a leak in it. So I had decided that I was going to go to the car dealership, take the money that I had saved up, and I was going to go buy a new car. So I head to the dealership, and I take my dad with me. Not that was just for goofs and giggles. I wasn't going to actually listen to him. But I took my dad with me, and we start looking at cars, and before my eyes, I see this same black Cadillac, and it was all shiny, just like this. And I started dreaming like we all do. And I'm driving into the school parking lot, and the windows are down, and the hair is blowing, and everybody stops what they're doing to look at me driving the parking lot. And all the girls want to be with me, and all the guys want to be me. And I started dreaming. And out of my dream, I hear my dad's voice. Cade, why don't you look at this car? It's newer, a little bit cheaper, has better gas prices. And so I turned to look at the car he suggested, and it was a 2008 baby blue Kia Rio. Now, if you don't know what that looks like, that's what that looks like. I would drive that car now. My commute to Decatur, great gas mileage, but that is not something that a 17-year-old wants to drive in high school. You don't want to pull up to your school parking lot in that as a 17-year-old boy. So I didn't listen to him, and I ended up getting the Cadillac. Now, you may ask, how did I get the Cadillac? Well, it's $6,500. When a Cadillac like that is $6,500, it means one of two things. It's either stolen, or it's got a lot of previous damage and a lot of things wrong with it. And so my dream never came into reality. In a matter of a few months, it was in the junkyard, and I was driving this bad boy around. Your dreams, they will never quite satisfy you the way that you want them to. Reality will never be as good as your worldly fantasies. Things can't make you happy. I'll give you one more story. Well, let me go back. So a couple of years ago during the pandemic, I had gotten COVID, and I was going to have to quarantine myself. And this was before I got married, and I think back then the protocol was like 2 weeks or something, 10 days or 2 weeks or whatever. So I was living with my parents, and I was going to have to barricade myself into my room for a couple of weeks. And for those of you who have been quarantined in a pandemic, about day 2, boredom starts to set in. You've watched all the movies you want to watch, and then you just start itching. You got to start doing something. And so, for whatever reason, I was going through YouTube videos, and the YouTube algorithm decided that it wanted to start suggesting videos of people building these extravagant tree houses to me. And so I saw these extravagant 2- and 3-story tree houses being built, and they had slides going all the way down, and they had zip lines going from tree. They had drawbridges, and they were amazing. And I started dreaming. Wait a second. My grandparents have a little bit of land behind their house. I bet I could build a tree house. And so in my mind, I'm dreaming of this amazing tree house that I'm going to build. And it's going to be 2 stories. And there's going to be a slide coming down one window and a zip line coming down all the way from the top. And all my little cousins are going to love me, and my niece is going to love me. I'm going to be family member of the year, and people are going to see my awesome carpentry skills. I started daydreaming, and so as soon as I got out of quarantine, I headed to Lowe's, maxed out a Lowe's credit card, and I got started. Here's a picture of me starting. Hey, don't laugh. And it was going relatively smooth. And here's a picture of the base, the beginning of the base of the treehouse. It doesn't look terrible. Those of you who are carpenters in here, you might be, shuddering, but. And here's me standing on the base that I built. Oh, I was so proud. My dream was finally coming true. I was building this treehouse. I had this 2-story treehouse in my mind, and it was being built. Let's zoom in on this picture so I can showcase my carpentry skills. Guys who are builders, I don't think nails are supposed to come out of the side like that. If that happens, that means you don't know how to nail a nail into some wood. So I just bent it back in there just to make it kind of smooth. You see, the boards aren't level in all three areas. They're not level at all. They don't come together, but I was proud, and I was going to see my dream realized. So I ended up building the 2-story treehouse. Now, surprisingly, it stayed up, but I wasn't done. My dream was not to just have a 2-story treehouse, but I wanted a zip line. And so if you see the little box that looks like a kite right there, that's where the zip line was going to be. You were going to jump off of the top level, and you were going to zip line 60 feet down to another tree. Now, that's about 16 feet high. I measured it because I didn't put the treehouse on the ground. I brought it up about 4 feet, and then I built it almost like you would build a wall in a house, about 8 feet high. So I was going to build this extravagant zip line. And so I ended up building the zip line. And here's the test run. All right, let me see if it'll play. All right. There's a test run. Not bad. Everybody's still alive. But it wasn't my dream. It wasn't my fantasy. I wanted it to be higher, and I wanted it to be faster. And so I went to Lowe's, and I went to Home Depot, and I got more turnbuckles, and I got more ways to tighten the cable wire so that I could have this fast zip line. That I wanted the zip line to be like Clark Griswold when he puts lubricant on the sled. I mean, I wanted to just fly down there. That was my dream. That's what I had seen online. And so I tightened it, and it was ready for me to try. It was test day. And it was Thanksgiving. All my family was out there. My little cousins, they're standing there jumping up and down, ready to see me go down this huge zip line. My grandmother's off to the side. My aunt's recording, and I'm ready to test it out. And so I get on the zip line, and I'm 20 feet in the air, and I'm a little nervous, but I've got faith in my zip line building skills. And so I jump off of the second story, and I make it about 1 foot. And when the weight hits the cable wire, it snaps, and I fall to the ground. My dream ended up in the Decatur emergency room. I had broken a lower bone in my back, aka my tushy. To this day, the zip line that had broken still lays in the yard. And to make matters worse, all that time and money I spent on that treehouse, my aunts and uncles won't even let my little cousins play on it. I mean, you wonder why. Dreams, they don't quite come into reality the way that we want them to. If you hinge your happiness on your worldly desires, you will never be happy. If your desires are purely of this world, your life will end in disaster. In James chapter 4, James tells the church here in Jerusalem, he says, what causes the quarrels and fights among you? Pay attention to this. Does it not come from the passions that war within you, the evil desires within you? You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. Powerful words here. You adulterous people. When you think of adultery, you think it's a sin, a sexual sin of someone who's married out of wedlock. But if you desire the world instead of God, God calls you an adulterer. He says, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself, this powerful language right here, makes himself an enemy of God. The people here in Jerusalem, I mean, they were messed up. They were messed up because their passions were of this world. They were selfish. Verse 2, it says, their passions were at war within them. Even worse, this passage of Scripture, here's what it says. It says, if your passions are worldly, you are an enemy of God. Well, I can think about maybe not being as close to God at times and kind of focusing on worldly things, but I wouldn't call myself an enemy of God. It says right here, if you desire worldly things, you are an enemy of God. Now, does that mean that we can't be motivated to do certain things? No, not at all. But when our life hinges around worldly pleasures, worldly desires, worldly fantasies, then we are an enemy of God. So the simple question that I ask you today, where do your dreams lie? When you dream, when you fantasize, is it all about worldly desires, worldly pleasure? For many of us, we struggle with this. Like myself, I struggle with wanting to fulfill my worldly desires, my worldly pleasures. And so I've created a game plan for us and how we can focus more on the spiritual things, the spiritual desires in life, and focus less on our worldly desires. And so I have a 3-step game plan. Number 1, have a good offense. Do you have a good offense spiritually? What has God told you to do? What route has God told you to run? What assignment has God given you? Are you playing any offense? Are you on the offensive and telling others about Jesus? Mark 16:15 says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all of creation. Are you telling others about Jesus? Hebrews 11 verse 24 says, and let us consider how to stir one another up to good works. Are you encouraging other people? Verse 25 says, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together, but as is the habit of some, but encourage one another as you see the day drawing near. Are you coming to church? Are you playing good offense? Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Are you surrounding yourself with good friends? Now, what do I mean by good friends? I'm not talking about, I got your back, good friends. I'm talking about good friends meaning, I want to help you get to heaven. That's the kind of friends that you need. That's a good friend. Are you surrounding yourself with good friends? 2 Timothy 3:16, all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, and instruction in righteousness. Are you reading your Bible? Are you studying? Are you learning? James 5:16, confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Are you praying? Are you praying for your church family? Are you praying for your kids? Are you praying for our leaders? Are you praying? Do you have any spiritual offense? If you want to focus your life around Jesus Christ and not be drawn away by worldly pleasures and desire, you have to have a good spiritual offense. Number 2, have a good defense. If you want to have a better spiritual mindset, you got to have a good defense. Are you playing good defense? When God says not to do something, do you keep yourself from doing it? Are you on guard against the devil? Matthew 5:28 says this, I say to you that everyone that looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Guys, are you protecting yourself from what you see? Girls, same thing. Are you on guard? Are you playing good defense about what comes on your phone? What comes on your television? Are you playing good spiritual defense? Are you playing good defense against lust? Proverbs 20 verse 1 says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is a brawler. Anyone who is led astray by it is not wise. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. If wine's a mocker, we're supposed to be sober-minded. Are you playing good defense against alcohol? Matthew 5:22. I say to you, everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to counsel, and whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. Are you playing good defense against anger? 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts what? Good morals. Bad company corrupts good morals. Are you playing defense on who you surround yourself with? 1 Timothy 6 verse 10 says, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and some by longing for it have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Are you playing defense against the love of money? The devil has a really strong offense. The devil has a high-powered offense. So if we want to defeat the devil, we've got to have a high-powered defense. Are you playing good spiritual defense? And then finally, special teams. Are you on God's special team? When the game is on the line spiritually, who do you want kicking the game winners for you? To kind of prove my point here, I want us to go over some of the famous special teams moments in history. Now, this one right here. This is probably one of the worst nights of 2022 for me. Of course, my grandmother breaking her neck was number one, right? But number two was this. If you can't see what that is, Alabama fans, Tennessee fans, and Auburn fans who just love to watch disaster, this is the game, Tennessee versus Alabama this year. Physicists are still studying how this kicker closed his eyes and kicked a dead duck that somehow wobbled through the uprights. But a crazy moment. Hundreds of thousands of people storming the field. Tough night for Alabama fans. An even tougher night for me. You know how hard it was to go to sleep knowing that I was laying next to a Rocky Top maniac? I mean, it's hard to go to sleep. You roll over and, nonetheless, a notorious special teams moment. Oh my goodness. They play this every Iron Bowl. Auburn fans smile. Alabama fans say, why did you have to put that up there? We all know this. This is the game that started my dad's 6-month anger management and counseling journey. 1 second left. Davis, or whatever his name is, runs it back. Yada, yada, the rest is history. What about last night? Bless this kid's heart. How many of y'all are watching this game? A few of you. Man, kid lines it up. Everybody's watching him, and I was looking at him. I was like, he looks pretty calm. I think he's gonna drill this one. Oh my God! I mean, it looked like a boomerang. I mean, it went all the way over there. Bless his heart. Special teams. Are you on God's special team? Jesus never misses. He will always lead you to victory. John 14, verse 6 says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. The Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." Are you on Jesus' special team? Like I said, man, these coaches, they put the game in the hands of one person, these kickers. And so I couldn't help but draw that spiritual parallel. Do you put your life in the hands of one person? When everything's on the line, do you go to God? Do you go to Jesus? Do you let Him be your leader? Do you anchor yourself to Jesus and the church? Jesus never misses. In conclusion, make your desires about Christ. Make your fantasies about spiritual things. Make your dreams about living a godly life. You remember how at the beginning I said that worldly fantasies never work out in reality the way they do in your mind? How reality will never be as good as your worldly fantasies? Let me tell you something else. Your spiritual fantasies, when they come to reality, will be 1,000,000 times greater than the dream. Spiritual reality is better than your spiritual fantasy. You may dream about heaven. You can fantasize about heaven, but I promise your dreams and your fantasy will never be how great heaven is going to be. I remember dreaming about, when I was younger, dreaming about having a godly wife and having a godly family. And oh, how reality has been so much greater than my dreams. Can I stop sleeping on the couch now, since I said that? Maybe you've had a problem where you have put worldly things first, and you've let that get in the way of your life and your spiritual life. I'm here to tell you that if you don't make a turn, if you don't make a 180, your life's going to end in disaster. Spiritual things, God must come first if you want to have your dreams realized. That thing inside of you, that emptiness, where you just can't get satisfied, the only thing that can fill that emptiness, that hole is God. And so maybe you haven't given your life over to Christ. Maybe you need to start your walk with Christ today. We have the baptistry ready. We're ready to baptize you into Christ. Maybe you need the prayers of the congregation. Maybe you've strayed away from the path and you need the prayers of the congregation to help get you back on the path. Whatever you need today, please come as we stand and as we sing.
Hello, my name's Philip Goad, and I'm privileged to serve as the minister here at North Highlands Church of Christ. You may have heard something in today's message that has you asking questions, searching for answers, wanting to know more about God and His plan for you. If that's where you are, we would love nothing more than to set up a time to study the Bible with you. If you'll reach out to us, we'll set up a time that works for you. We'll open the Bible. We'll search for those answers. We'll find the answers to the questions that you have. We'd also invite you to come out and connect with us in person. Come out and worship with us. Sunday mornings we worship at 9:30 a.m. and that's followed by Bible classes for all ages. We come back Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock for another time of Bible study. And then midweek, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m., the church gathers. It's another time of Bible study. And again, classes are offered for all ages. If you're needing to be at home, all of our services are streamed live on our Facebook page, and you can connect with us that way. Saturdays, the third Saturday of each month, we have a food bank. It's open from 9 to 11 a.m. It provides food to those who need it, and so if you know of someone within Franklin County who's in need of food, please let them know about the food bank that's open the third Saturday of each month from 9 to 11 a.m. It's one of the ways that our church serves our community. Thank you for connecting with us today. Thank you for being a part of this, and I hope to connect with you in person very soon.